Welcome, listeners, to www.ironradio.org, the website and podcast for all things strength sports and sports nutrition. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. Without further ado, here is a bonus episode and simulcast of Iron Radio. This is a full-length episode that you will see occasionally here on the Nutrition Radio Network. Enjoy.
We're superheroes, man. We don't have time to be charming.
Good morning, everybody. You're on Iron Radio. This is Phil Stevens. I am a powerlifter, Highland Games athlete, coach, and I make awesome things for awesome people. I just posted one the other day. I did get on social media, and I had to make a fight kit for a girl that was fighting, and she won and sent me a picture of the fight kit. So that was pretty awesome. But.
Awesome. This is Dr. Mike T. Nelson, Associate Professor of the Kerrigan Institute, creator of the Flex Diet Cert and the Phys Flex Cert. And leaving for Texas on Wednesday. We'll be gone for a while.
This is Coach Darrell out of the only Strength Guild gym in the country right now in Kansas City. Weightlifting. I'm actually 100% out of powerlifting now. I passed the last powerlifting inquiry on. So weightlifting, still got a strongman, and then just all around strength and condition.
Sweet.
Cool.
Nice.
We got Lonnie. Lonnie
Lowry. What am I? Scientist, nutrition industry consultant, part-time faculty, former competitive bodybuilder, that sort of thing.
I missed you at the Arnold, Lonnie. It was smaller than normal.
I know. I was sick as hell. I don't know what was wrong with me. Not good.
You didn't
because I know Corey was down there too, Corey Van Wyk, and I wanted to hook up with him.
I think I ran into Corey.
And I was just devastated. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those things that you talk about, Phil, one of those conditions.
Yep. I know those conditions. So...
No, that was disappointing because of the Swiss thing and all that, right? I at least wanted to walk in the lobby and say hi to a few people. I don't know.
I heard the Swiss is coming back to Ohio. They haven't officially announced it, but I hear it is. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. That's the rumor I heard too, but no date yet.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Has it been continuous since back in the old days? I mean, I spoke at Swiss in like 2001 or something.
It stopped for 2 years. 2020 and 2021, I think.
Everything else, huh?
Yeah. And then they just, as far as I know, they had to move it to Ohio because people just still can't get into Canada freely.
Yeah.
So they're like, we got to move, if we want to keep going.
Well, Columbus is a good location. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's great.
It worked out well. I just don't know how the attendance was compared to normal, but I don't know. There were a lot of people there. I'll go again. I'll MC again. That was fun.
Oh, nice.
And just announce people and count time. I'm all game for it, Dave, if you're listening. So
that's always been fun. That's been one of my favorite events to go to. I got to speak in Connecticut October 21st to the 22nd, and I'm afraid Swiss is going to be that same weekend. I'm like, no, but maybe not.
Yeah, maybe you'll get lucky. I was going to give a shout out to my client, Jennifer Bates. She had a strongman competition over the weekend. She swept every event, took first in everything, and earned her way to nationals yet again.
Nice.
So
awesome.
And did it early. So we have all the way until October to train for nationals. She's like, I'm done. We're just training for that.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
All that.
So she wanted to get one in early. So
congrats to her.
Yep. Fun times. And then Darrell was gone. The reason he was gone was he was at USAW Masters Nationals, I do believe. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Masters Nationals in Philadelphia this year. Philadelphia is not my favorite. It's probably bottom three.
Dude, you should have you're going. I could have lined the whole team up with like Chiefs gear to wear all around Philly. That would have been badass.
I mean, we had some. We were, walking around, but I mean, I don't know. Philly's bottom three. It's not the bottom. I'd have to say my low two are Salt Lake City and Detroit.
Detroit's bad.
Those are my bad ones. But yeah, Masters Nationals, we had 3 girls competing. I had Erica and 2 Jesses. Erica, she won. We had the whole thing wrapped up pretty much after the first snatch, but she also broke an American record in the snatch at 83 kilos. So it was an all right meet for her, but she was kind of injured, so we didn't really get like our best weights on the bar. So snatches went all right. Clean and jerks, not anywhere near PRs because it was her back that was giving her some trouble. So, but yeah, broke an American record. I think she took silver on clean and jerk, but I think we had that total by like 11 kilos or something. So, she's national champ again. So last year she was national champion, and then so she's back to back national champion. Little Jess Cruz, this is her second national meet, and she hit some PRs. She still got like some weightlifting growing to do where she's still like nervous about PR weights on the platform. So I actually made her hit her current PR twice in the back because it was some long weights. So her current PR was like 55. So I made her hit that twice in the back and then hit 56. Just missed at 58, 59. I don't know where she finished up total wise in terms of like the placements or whatever. Clean and jerks went well. Just missed on the press out for a PR on that. I'm not sure exactly where she placed. I can't remember. And then the other Jess on Sunday, she no records, but another national champion. She swept golds on all 3. So gold snatch, gold clean and jerk, gold total. And that was kind of a prep meet for us going into nationals this July.
Gotcha.
I can't wait for that. So yeah, 2 national champions, 3 lifters, 2 of them national champions. So it was a good time.
Erica's going to have to go after Tom Brady's record. She's got 2 now. She just needs like 6 more. So
yeah, I mean, well, we'll see. She's moving. So she's moving to Seattle soon.
That's not good.
But she's still going to train with us. So we'll see.
That's what they all say. That's what they all say.
I know.
Then she'll just get in the kitchen and cook food. So.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a good meet. I think we only missed a few lifts in total. I mean, the other Jess was upset. So she won snatch on her opener and then missed her next 2. Kind of some narrow misses, but I think her elbow was kind of bothering her a little bit. She's disappointed about that. But other than that, I mean, I think we maybe missed 3 lifts out of the 3 of them, 3 or 4. So wasn't a bad day. Or a bad weekend for us. Weird kind of area. We were in King of Prussia. King of Prussia is just outside of Philly suburb or whatever, at a casino. And then I got to catch up with my daughter, so that was cool. Nice. But again, it was like she's 14, and we're like, oh yeah, drop her off at the casino. And then we'll do some, weightlifting. No, it was a good weekend, so we had a good time.
Nothing screams health and fitness like a casino. Just food everywhere.
The last time I was in Philly, so there was another meet. This is a while back. It was junior national meet, and they called it a convention center, but it was just a closed down Kmart. That was the last time I was in Philly, and then this is the casino was the next one. The casino was fine; it wasn't that bad, but
yeah, that's like you talked about Detroit. The one we did, and I did. What the hell was it? It was Junior Olympics in Detroit. The convention center was really nice. The whole rest of the city was holy crap. It was bad. They have some nice buildings, like The bad thing is they had really nice buildings for sale. It's like everything was shut down. But
so that, I forget when we went to that, but so that was the regular nationals, and I was there all week. And like, so they, and I don't know what it is about Detroit. And I mean, maybe nobody has a job or whatever. I have no idea, but it'd be like Tuesday, 3 a.m. They're out in the street just partying, blasting music. I was like, God dang. And it was every day, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, every day. Because we got an Airbnb just outside of the, like kind of deep in the heart of the city, right along the Riverwalk. And man, they were out every night. Riding four-wheelers, like racing cars and stuff. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Fights, like 2 a.m., you wake up, look out the window, and somebody pulled somebody's hair off, and you're like, golly, this is like the Wild West. Where's RoboCop? You know?
Yeah. So what I want to hit up on a topic is, it's something I've been talking about lately with people, and for some reason it keeps popping up over and over again. But there's this tendency in sport, and it's in all sports, I think, not just strength sports, but it's often you see a genetic freak, somebody that's just naturally talented, and they're just good at whatever they try, or good at whatever particular sport, and it comes easy to them. And in a short amount of time, short amount of years, they end up getting beat out by the average people that just work hard. And a lot of it is because basically these super talented people, and I've seen it numerous times, it's like they come up, they're a flash in the pan, they're killing it, and everything comes easy to them. And then at a certain point, inevitably, it gets hard. And generally they quit when it gets hard, because it's never been hard. Whereas the average person, from day one, they've had to bust ass, and they just keep their nose down and grind on. So, like, it's always been hard. So they keep strolling. And then on the other end of the spectrum, it's, of course, the freaks, the elite of the elite. Let's say the Patrick Mahomes and the Tom Brady's are probably generally those people that were just naturally talented and have a work ethic. I mean, what would you guys say about that? I mean, how prevalent has this been in your guys' life, tenure as coaches?
I mean, I would say that's, exactly what I see. Like, the people that just show up, do the work, violent consistency, do it in an intelligent manner. And then that's, months, years, decades, make pretty good progress.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been down to my buddy Adam's place in Texas. So he does a lot of grip lifting. He's got a whole bunch of inch dumbbells and stuff. And he's told stories of, in Texas, arm wrestling is really big. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously there's some huge sides of beef with eyeballs that live in Texas that do arm wrestling. And he said there's been a couple of guys who just, walked into his gym, picked up the Thomas inch dumbbell, looked at him, and just set it down.
Yeah.
And he's like, have you ever done any grip training before? They're like, no. Like, do you realize what you just did is so crazy difficult? They're like, no. And so at first he's like, I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be great. We'll, do some training. This guy's going to, destroy everyone in grip sport. And they're like, nah, I'm just not interested. Yep. It's just like, you're already like at the freak, end of the spectrum. But the person was just like, I don't know, it was easy. So I don't care. I'm like,
That was my first thought, Mike, actually, when Phil was talking about, like, once it gets hard, people quit. I think if it comes real easy, you're not going to value it, right? The only thing you value are things you fight for, so they get bored.
Yeah, they're like, whatever.
Well, and what I've seen, they bounce a lot. It's those people tend to bounce from activity to activity. And they're always good at all those activities. And they only stick with it long enough for it to get hard.
Yeah.
Like, they'll get to near the upper echelon, and they're like, I'm done. I'm bored with it now. It's just, it tears at my heart.
I know.
I have, I'm not going to name any names, but I have like several banners of people in my gym that were this way. It's like, look at this person. They're going to be great. And then they're gone. They're just, I'm done.
Yeah.
And,
What they could have
but-
done, you know.
Yeah, it's like, man. And then I have people that are just, how do you put this? They lost the genetic war,
Oh,
but they
yeah.
have to try hard, and they'll just perpetually suck, no matter what. But they fucking work harder than anybody else, and they just keep going at it, and like they train their asses off to be average, you know. And it's like,
Sure.
man, if we could just mix those two people together, you'd have a freak. But it's disheartening. But you got to just roll with it. I mean, you can't do anything as a coach, no matter how much you want it. It's like anything in life. Like when you're dealing with an addict or something, of course you want them to get clean, but they're not going to do it until they want to.
Right.
And I don't know if there's a way to instill that fight. On the other end of the spectrum, you know, Jim talks about the whole discipline over motivation a lot. The discipline's more important. But if you look at people that make it, let's say in the big three sports, baseball, basketball, football, like it's a lot of inner city kids that were poor.
Yeah.
And if you look at the reasoning behind that, like, of course they have discipline, but their motivation pushes that discipline.
Oh, yeah.
Like they are motivated to get the fuck out of the ghetto, you know, and that's their way out. I mean, it's just the truth. And when you have a massive amount of, what I'm getting at here is the argument that a lot of discipline can be fueled by motivation, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like a shit ton of motivation makes having a lot of discipline easy when those days get hard. You know, so I think it's a bit of both. I'm not saying Windler's wrong. You need that discipline. You need to there's days, you know, I talked to this about with my kids. There's many days that I don't want to go to the gym. But you just put your head down and go. Because I know even that subpar day is better than no day. As long as there's no injury, you know. So like last week, I was up till 3:30 in the morning at a frickin' concert. But I went in and I squatted. Was it great? Hell no. But I got it. I got done what I needed done. But
I'll add this question, I guess, pose it in terms of, and part of it's because I was watching like a little YouTube documentary thing about Randy Johnson and like the culture of sports now and how quickly you kind of get thrown to the side, like almost leaves out a lot of the late developers who end up being really, really good, you know, because Randy Johnson initially, like he had a fastball and then he was out of control. And I mean, he didn't really pop until like I don't even know, it was like closer to like his late 20s, almost like close to 30.
mm-hmm.
And then he was really good, you know, like he was one of the greatest of all time at the end of it. You know, but he's a late developer. I think Kobe talked about this a little bit, although he went to NBA out of high school, but he talked about moving back from Europe to here. He was like, oh, I was behind everyone athletically. You know, they're jumping higher. They're all dunking and doing stuff. And he's like, all right, gotta, you know, catch up. Obviously, Kobe's a little bit different in that he was, I don't even know if, yes, motivated, you know, maybe motivated to prove something, but at the very least, like curious to see how good he could be. And I think that curiosity is almost dead in like most sports because the people you see excelling, I mean, look how much they do on social media. And it's like, if you're not good immediately, it's like they're out, you know what I mean? Like it's like they're out. Not only are they out, the coaches even kind of are out on you. Like they're already working with whatever the kids who are showing right now or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that's
so
a
like
good
leaves
point,
those
Terrell.
late developers behind.
In my opinion, this is my bias, I guess, but in muscle sports, strength sports, it's not just for the 20-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A lot of the qualities that I think make you kick ass in something like bodybuilding, and I got to think powerlifting, so long as you don't get hurt, they start to show up. People start to really peak in their 30s and 40s. This is not a game for 23-year-olds. And that takes a lot of time. And time says, you know, you better go to the gym after the concert. You know, you got to have the discipline to show up and do this kind of stuff.
Well, and it also brings the point of, I think, like we always talk about the uprise and the change in powerlifting and weightlifting. Like today, there's arguably more people doing it than ever before. But there's also, I would say, no more the amount of people reaching a super high level.
Yeah.
And it's because those sports have become more popular. So there's a ton, like powerlifting, the only people that used to do it were serious about it. There'd be like 27 people in your state. You know, they'd have trouble filling up a meet, but everybody that showed up was a fucking monster. You know, and now it's popular. So 97% of people that show up are just doing it to get clicks and to do the cool thing.
God
And
help
you
me.
still have the 3% that are just, they're literally doing it because they love the sport. And that's what I think has changed the most. And that's like, I love that powerlifting is bigger than it was before, and weightlifting. You know, you have these huge meets, but it's arguably still the same percentage of people that are really good doing it because they love it.
I would say we actually performed better in weightlifting before.
Yeah, I
Like-
could see that.
Like Pete Kelly and like that national team that like medaled.
Mhm.
Those are like natural guys against juice guys for real.
Yeah.
And Barnett and Kelly were top 10 and Barnett medaled.
Yeah.
Like he got a bronze against like, and he's a heavy guy. So he was like a 105, right? No, maybe like a 105. I can't remember. Wes Barnett. But they medaled against like guys who were, you know, for sure on like,
Yeah. Well, and in pure strength sports, like we talked about discipline and motivation, the motivation used to be great at the sport. And I think social media has hurt the sports because now a lot of the motivation is geared towards your post.
Hell yeah.
So we see a ton of athletes like they're doing the Kurt Kowalski thing, where, you know, he hit 1,000 for 2 in the training room and then missed it on the platform. So you see a lot of that, like they're putting their best efforts on Instagram, and then they fucking get crushed in a meet because I think they're overtraining and they're hitting weights they don't need to hit in training because the motivation is now that instead of the meet. But so that can be tough too. It's the social media thing's a hard thing, and over the last month, like I said, we were talking about before the show, like I've been distant from it, and it's great, but it's also bad for business. So it's finding that balance. Like I made a few posts. I'm like, holy shit, look at all this activity. But it's hard to get back into that. And,
Yeah, unless you're going to film them in your gym. Honestly, one of the things that was most disturbing for me years ago, I was watching some nerdy documentary, and they were saying that people just don't have, we don't have any immunity to the kind of attention that social media can bring you, right? So, I mean, these guys are going to get hundreds or thousands or millions of views for something they do in the gym.
Yeah.
How do you say, no, you should value a meet? It's more official, I guess.
Yeah.
But they're just so stoked. So, but the flip side would be chasing that social media thing and bring cameras into your gym, but then all they're doing is playing up for the camera instead of putting their head down and trying to get serious. I don't know.
That's tough. And then it has skewed the fame of people, if that's the right term. Like we talked about the other couple weeks ago on the show. I can almost guarantee you there's a large percentage of powerlifters today that just don't know who Ed Cohn is, but they know who the latest craze on social media is.
Yeah.
You know, so the fame has skewed to that.
Sad face.
You know, yeah, it's crazy, but like
It also
the
rewards
same could be said in the
goofy
bodybuilding.
stuff.
The what?
Oh, I just said it also rewards, not to pick on Larry Wheels, but like the doing goofy stuff for the camera.
Yes,
Not
big
just
time.
entertainment, but like trying
Yes, right.
to pass it off as training. Or like
Yes.
you watch most of Ed Cohen's old videos and stuff. It's impressive, but it's also boring as hell.
Boring
too.
as shit.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and that's what I'd say. I'd say most of the greats training was pretty boring.
Oh yeah.
It was the same shit over and over again.
Look,
Repetition.
he squatted a
But-
lot of weight again. Oh, okay.
But I'd also, and especially, and I still say this to this day, that's what, like, of all the strength sports, I respect people that are great in weightlifting the most. Because it's the most boring fucking sport ever to train for.
Oh yeah.
It is literally snatch and clean and jerk all the fucking time. And like powerlifting, there's more variation. We can box squat, we can, this, that, this, and all these things. All the accessory work leads to these things in a great way. Whereas like with weightlifting, literally you just need to snatch and clean and jerk a lot. Yeah, there's some squats and shit moved in, but you're not going to just squat and get better at weightlifting. It's going to aid it a bit, but literally you need to go in every day of your training that week, and you know what you're going to do. There's going to be some changes in rep scheme and load, but it's the same shit over and over for a decade to be good. Yeah, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to do that.
That's interesting. Well, just because this last training cycle, I actually wrote it as kind of like an old, I don't even say old, but just like a, more Eastern European training cycle where it's just a ton of reps between, and it works. This has probably been the best. Like all my lifters feel the best and are hitting their best weights, even on the platform. And we're not taking heavy weights in training, which is that's hard to do with most teams or whatever. But, and I looked at it a couple of the weeks, last week, just kind of reviewing stuff. But in like the Eastern European, and I'll never forget, who was the 105, girl, 105 plus girl, Tatiana. Remember, she was like, she was one of the smaller ones, but she was like, she could beat the American. She could have won American Open Nationals at 105 as a girl at the time. But like her coach said, she never missed a weight in training. Mm-hmm. And it literally just has to do with that. They program appropriate percentages all the time. But again, the pushback towards me, and I actually prefer that kind of program where it's like you're working on details all the time, but that's boring. Like that's way too boring. Now I added, obviously added some accessory work and have some other challenges and stuff that I plugged in, but we didn't take any heavy. But yeah, just the idea of like not going for a max on a complex or something like that, or not being entertained in the training process is such a hard fight for, well, any of the weightlifters that kind of get on the team, especially if they come from CrossFit, where it's like you can just, you're never good at anything, right? So you're always like technically every training session is you're quote unquote learning something new, but you go to weightlifting, it's like you're just going to suck at the same thing every day until, you kind of breach the surface as we were able to do this last weekend. But yeah, it's that 70 to 85% range, just hammering weights at that. Mm-hmm. And look, you look at what kind of the old school stuff was, Ed Cohen and all that. Their average relative intensity was probably around 70.
Yeah.
In terms of like their total lift. So like the guys who take those heavy lifts, and maybe, who knows with social media, maybe they just take those lifts and then they post them on different days or whatever. But it's hard to keep people engaged with that for sure. Like 100% in this era.
Yes. Yeah. Because Ed talked about it numerous times about he's a firm believer you only have so many max-ish attempt lifts in your life. So he's like, why would you take them in the gym? Like, it doesn't matter in the gym. He saved them all for the platform. So most of his time in training was just hitting numbers. And, I tried to feed that in my training. Like when I squatted 770, I never went over 700 in the training. I just knew if I moved that fast, it's there. I don't have to go there. Like the risk versus reward in the gym is too high. Save that for the platform. But that's hard to do, man, because people want that video up.
Oh, right. Yeah. Where's the production value in, doing it again? Oh, look, Phil did it again.
Yeah.
You need to get a bloody nose and poop yourself in the gym, and it's like, nah, we don't need to go that far. It's like you just skirt that edge of hardness in the gym.
If anybody cares, there was a thing on Science Friday on March 17th. I just looked this up. There was a guy on there talking about, it was called the chaos machine of social media. And he was basically talking about the addictive nature of it. Like I was saying, we just don't have the immunity to that kind of attention, right? People for umpteen generations grew up in villages where there was like 50 people. And And so now we're thrust into this situation that we're just not biologically built for. But this whole chaos machine was about how I think there's some new academic paper that came out, and he's talking about, it's like with the cigarette companies. These companies, they know it's addictive. They know it has negative outcomes to people's mental health and that kind of thing. But they'll just hire the right PhD to stand there in court and defend it. No, it's fine. It's harmless. We have all these, help tools built into our app for mental health and for this and that. But his whole point was it's overall a bad thing because we can't really deal with it psychologically, and the companies know it. And like, do you think they would give a damn about someone like Ed Cohen?
Yeah.
Who deserves the credit and the attention, but he's not the new hotness that's going to draw in the next 500,000 viewers.
Yeah.
It's almost like athletes aren't athletes anymore. They're brands.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's a brand. And I don't know. That's what rubs me the wrong way.
Well, everybody's looking for the newest, greatest thing. That star gets old really fast on social media. And then they're always pushing a narrative for the next guy to come up, which drives social media even more. But no, and it's good and bad. Like I said, there's good and bad to it. Like, the good thing about social media is, like, it's easier to connect with like-minded individuals in your activity. Now, like, when I started, like, I was the only one in this fucking town doing powerlifting. And so you had an outlet. And back then it was forums. And now it's like they're everywhere. So the bad thing is the same thing. So you always suck. Like, before, when you had a village, you could be, I'm a badass. I'm doing good.
Local hero.
And you could be the local hero. And that pushes you. But now you find out really fast you suck. Even though, and it's hard to grasp, but you're still in that top 1%. Like, a girl deadlifting 400, and they're like, yeah, but she's doing 5. Yeah, but she's in Yugoslavia on lots of drugs. Yeah. But it makes you suck really easy. It's easy to suck now. And not realize that you're still in the top 1% of the world with what you're doing. So there's a give and take to it. So.
The secondary community, the online community, is something that's sort of been invented since the internet. I'm not sure the way social media does it now is the best way, but there's no doubt that connectivity, that's a big deal. Because, I mean, muscle sports, you were talking about like the big 3 sports earlier. Mm-hmm. They've become part of those things as far as preparation, but they're still weird and niche in a lot of ways. And it's nice to be able to connect. Your only other option would be to wait once a year or a couple times a year and go to something like an Arnold Classic, or where the freaks just come out and they'll drive for thousands of miles,
Yeah, or, I mean, back in the day, it was waiting every month for a new magazine to come out. So you'd have something to read and connect with.
Well, I'll add this, and this is just because, per the conversation, I'm going to guess this group's not going to be aware of it, but so in basketball, there's a company that has essentially they're trying to manipulate the sport to just be social media and highlights, right? And this is where, so there's a lot of good high school players who are going to this organization essentially, and it's like a manipulation of the sport media to be for social media. And one of the things that the NBA does well, like they do the best on social media out of the big 3 in the United States. And it's just because like people clip their stuff all the time. So and the experience I have with kids who come in is that is just that they just see highlights, right? Like they just see the best, best action. They'd never watch a game, right?
Yeah.
So I almost think that this has kind of been like almost naturally done with weightlifting and powerlifting, where it's like you're trying to basically put everyone else under the rug just to watch the 1 or 2 lifters that are like, top of the session, but you're going to learn the most by watching everyone. Mm-hmm. So if you remove that, it almost removes the value of those top lifters too over time, right? So it's like, yeah, okay, like you only watch those lifters, but what makes them great is also all the other people participating who are chasing them.
Relative to what? Right.
Yeah, well, that, and it also skews, like, let's be honest here. Nobody posts their bad shit.
No.
So basically, you're sitting here viewing the best of this person. You're viewing only the best moments of this person's life at any given time, which makes these viewers think, man, they just fucking win at everything. They never have a hard day. They never suck. They never feel bad. They're just always in the gym doing amazing shit. And a lot of my days suck, or a lot of my days are average. Well, yeah, because you're not seeing those days from them.
Yeah, it's human nature to want to put your best foot forward, I think.
Yeah.
And it's all this value signal, even with food. Look at what I eat. You know, people post food. Like, I know Mike and I have done this over the years, too. And I'm sure all this probably, Jarrell, I don't know if you have or not, but it's like, look at this amazing meal. We're in some weird location, and, you know, look how they eat kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of people, it's that value signaling. And it's like, yeah, look, I win again. And look how, how winning I am.
Yeah.
In all things.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's what was that movie that came out? That guy was talking about. Some guy really blew the lid off of that. I forget what that was called. The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Mark Manson.
But because you get tired of it, because you're right, Phil. It creates this sort of this facade that all this guy does is win night and day. Yep. And that's a good point, Jarrell. If you don't have the also rans, or you don't have the failed attempts, it's not relative to anything. You don't have anything to compare it to appreciate it. You know, all that winning. Like, how winning is it?
Yeah, it makes it easy to give up too. Because you're like, fuck, well, I missed a basket. He never misses. You know? Yeah. So I suck. But let's talk about you, Lonnie. What have you been up to?
Oh,
anything amazing?
Well, doing some consulting in the corporate world, and Mike's heard the belly aching about. I'm still adjunct teaching, just online teaching and stuff like that. But because my schedule is so weird with the consulting, actually, I'm able to do podcasting and stuff now that I wasn't able to do before, because, Mike knows what this is like, but when you work in a corporate environment, they kind of own you, to be honest, in a lot of ways, or they want a certain amount of control, and I can see why, I suppose. But yeah, so I did, for years, we've been sort of co-branding Iron Radio, Nutrition Radio. So I'm like, you know what? I have time to do these little 10-minute news segments. So I just did the news stuff. The good news is I've got a server and enough space on it, then I can do something like take this episode, or, once a month, take whatever you guys like from Iron Radio and pump it through like yet another channel. You know what I mean? Like another network, because we are all so bad, at least. I mean, I feel that. I know, Phil, you were just saying that about how so bad about social media. So it's like, you know what? I can release bonus episodes or do a different thing just so it starts showing up again on iTunes and that kind of stuff. Because if you're not chasing a lot of this stuff, and I'm not, these marketing materials I've been looking at, you really need to pay TikTok influencers or create contests to get them to push your content. And I'm like, no, hard no,
not happening.
Hard no.
I have a question for you guys. It's kind of off the beaten path, but really for all of you. But if you think about all the best information and best advice you've ever gotten, was it online or in person?
It was always in person.
Always in person.
100%. Yeah. But I also took a different route than most people. So I literally, if I wanted to learn something, I fucking went there. I lived out of a backpack and a truck for like 12 years.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I'm just curious because, especially you, Lonnie, a lot of the information that you and Mike deal with is, across the globe, essentially, in terms of studies and whatnot. So I'm curious, the best learning that you guys are able to accomplish.
Mike, you travel a lot like Phil, but for sort of different. I mean, you don't live there, but you stay for extended periods, right? And I mean, it's like going to conferences. I don't like online conferences.
Mm.
I just have to shackle myself to the computer desk to slog through it. And when you're there, it's actually rewarding, you know. How do you feel about that stuff, Mike?
For me, it's been both, but I would say probably more in person. But sometimes the in person then translates to online, right? So I met, Adam Glass when he was up here, did some bunch of grip competitions with him. And because I've had so much experience in coaching from him in person, now if I send him a video and he sends me a text back, it makes sense. Right. Similar for conferences, like, anyone who's gone to conferences, like you see the main presenters and it's usually good info, but it's a lot of the other, I can just think of the last 3 conferences I was at. Like probably some of the best information I got or the things I learned the most was, sitting next to somebody at breakfast or having a conversation in the hall. But that's also facilitated by seeing their talk and then knowing what specifically to ask them after. So it's kind of both. And like what Lonnie was saying, like I love pre-recorded stuff that I can kind of watch on my own time, I think is great. But similar, I did one conference. It was a 3-day nutrition conference online, 2020. And it was great because there were some speakers there that I had never been able to see, some from, Australia, New Zealand. It's hard for them to travel. But after like literally the first day, like I couldn't sit through the next 2 days. Like I just couldn't hack that much of time sitting there watching it. And because it was live, I didn't have the chance to, watch it later. So I think it's a combination of both. And what I realized for myself is the stuff that's online, I like to do asynchronously. So I still have subscriptions to like old printed journals that show up in my mail because I can put it next to the couch and I can sit there and just grab the journal and read it. Or I'll pull a bunch of stuff off into Evernote. So on my iPad, the only thing I can do is read studies on my iPad. There's no social media. There's nothing else on it. But I get to do those kind of on my own schedule. So I think it's both. And I think newer trainers would be better served to go to physical events. And I know for when I get follow-up communications online, if somebody paid to go to an event, and we've talked about this before, like I'll help those people all day compared to some rando who I don't know, who just sent me a random message, who I've never met before. Odds of them doing much with it. They might, but it's much lower because they had no skin in the game either.
Yeah, and what the thing is, what you're talking about is generally, and I've learned both online and in person, but what usually fuels my online learning is the in-person meeting first.
Oh, sure.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where I say, like, I wouldn't have delved in that far into that individual stuff if we hadn't met first.
Mm-hmm.
And also the fact, which I've said it numerous times, like we just talked about the Swiss. The talks are great, but they can only get so much done in their allotted time period.
Yep.
So it's all those questions after, in the hallway, at breakfast, at dinner, that you miss on an internet platform. Like, those don't exist. There is no hallway after the talk where you can go, hey, I'm going to skip this talk because I want to ask that guy 10 more questions. And like you said, they're usually willing to answer those questions if you're at an event you paid a large amount of money to go to. You know? So, whereas they're not if Joe Schmo reaches out to them online. They're just going to ignore your message. So, so,
this is probably a topic for another day, but I had a student mention to me recently that there are now AI programs that you can type in, here's my situation, build me a program so I can compete in X, like an exercise. And it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Because if you're not valuing all the nuance of the human interaction, and let's face it, I'm an introvert. I'd rather not be around people most of the time. But the people that you do want to be around, it's really valuable to do that. And I agree with Mike about the asynchronous. I like to do things when I'm ready to do it, when it comes to certain kinds of group training and that kind of stuff. But like you said, Phil, that's where the discipline comes in, and you have to learn to value that face-to-face, because otherwise AI is going to just bake up something for you.
Yeah.
And I know it's still probably valuable to have a coach involved because, garbage in, garbage out when it comes to those sort of algorithms and machine learning and all that stuff. But Yeah, I would think, that's going to be one of the risks if you're all online all the time. Because I don't think anybody's going to say online isn't a valuable source of information.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we generally read stuff now.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I don't know. The whole AI thing is going to get its tendrils into fitness programming and stuff like that too. And,
Well, it's also, in my opinion, it's easier in person to tell if somebody's full of shit.
Oh yeah.
Than it is online. Like, it's really easy to make an online persona and put out content. And
persona. That's what I mean by brand, right?
Yes, people catch it and they stick with it. But in person, it's hard for these people to pull that off. It's just like it's really easy nowadays for somebody to be a tough guy on the internet. You see him in person, they ain't so
Not
tough.
much.
It's the same thing happens, just a different context. So it's easier for me to tell if somebody's, like, if the rubber's hitting the road in person than in a talk. So
I literally just, while you guys were doing that, typed in, I want to be an Olympic weightlifting champion. Can you write me a program into Chat GPT? And it told me to find a coach.
Oh, there you go. Good.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the best internet advice ever.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And I may give some very general advice. Develop a training plan. Focus on technique. Build strength.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it says again, it's essential to find a coach. So
yeah.
Well, the social media, the app that I have to ask her. I was talking to one of my students about this, and apparently what it does is it'll go through the top advice from top people and try to literally answer specific questions, and I don't know what the name of the app is, but that's dangerous business because, to your point, Phil, I mean, you can tell if someone's full of it or not. I love the term online persona.
Yeah.
I keep saying brand, and that's kind of negative. I mean, you can have a brand that's also a little bit more sincere, but also, to your point, it's people's motivation. If your motivation is just attention, that you could pick up on something like that, I would think, in person.
Easily.
So I don't know. We'll see. 5 years from now,
Yeah.
we'll see what AI is doing to nutrition and with training programs. Because if it can farm every journal, every editorial, every Iron Radio episode, what's that going to mean? It's going to be weird. I don't know.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Hi guys. Well, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Lonnie, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's fun. I'm glad we waited through the tech.
So,
Back to the old days.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Until next week.
The Iron Radio podcast and all of the audio on ironradio.org is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, it's important to check with your physician. Also seek the help of registered dietitians, athletic trainers, and qualified exercise physiologists in order to make the progress that you need.